What's up, Reef Fanatics? Welcome back to the Coral Reef Talk podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be talking all about 5 beginner LPS corals that you can have in your reef aquarium. What's up, Levi? How are things going?
Things are going good. I'm staying busy. How about yourself?
I mean, things are going great over here. Something exciting we just discovered in one of the 10-gallon tanks tonight is that we finally found the mantis shrimp in my son's tank. So we knew that there was a mantis shrimp in the other 10-gallon, but switching over to his 10-gallon, it's actually a green mantis shrimp, and it's pretty long. So, I mean, we thought originally that the green one that was in my daughter's tank would stay green, but that one started to change colors. So I don't know if this guy's going to stay green or not, but he's pretty big. He's probably about the same size. The shrimp himself is small, but he's a few inches long. So,
okay, yeah.
I mean, big. But I mean, we hear it every night, just really? clicking in the rocks, like building his tunnels and stuff. And like, we did not know where he was until tonight. So that's pretty cool.
Nice.
So, yeah, we finally found him. But anything new going on with any of your tanks?
Not really.
Not really? Everything's good?
Everything's good. Can't complain.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love it when everything's good. So today we decided we were going to talk about some LPS corals that are good for beginners. I know we've talked about LPS corals before. We showed some that were pretty unique. We talked about the walking dendro, stuff like that. But today we're going to show some more LPS corals that if you're brand new to getting into large polyp stonies, then some of these may be some good ones to try out, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. So we'll just jump right into it. If you're ready for it, we'll dive right into the first coral.
Yeah, so first off, we got the Trumpet. This is probably one of the most common LPS corals you're going to see like in local fish stores and even at like trade shows. They come in a variety of different patterns. In fact, there's quite a few to choose from. Probably the most popular one is going to be like this one here, like the Kryptonite Candy Cane Trumpet. Super cool. They're bright in color, but yeah, you get some other cool varieties and they're relatively easy to keep, especially if you're looking to jump into some LPS before you get into like Euphilia and all that sort of good stuff. I mean, it's always good to start with a more forgiving coral that you're going to learn from. And I mean, if you're doing well with these, you're probably going to do well with the others. So yeah, trumpets are really cool. Lots of different patterns. You can kind of choose something that's going to, work with your own tank and kind of with your own style. So
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, they kind of grow in like branches and like little clusters and stuff, which is really cool to see in your tank. You probably put them like low to mid in your tank would be these guys.
I mean, they can take some light too, but I mean, low to mid is probably where you're going to want to place them. And with how they grow, like you mentioned, it is easy to frag them. Yeah. So like once you get a nice giant colony or a big colony, you can easily frag them off, put them on a frag plug, trade them with a friend, do that kind of stuff. So
yeah, they're super cool. I remember getting these way back when we jumped into getting corals in our 75-gallon years and years ago.
Nice.
And another coral that's great for beginners would be the Blastomusa coral here. Blastos come in a variety of colors, and I would consider them pretty easy. There's websites that say care level is moderate, but I've had Blastos, or I've had a Blasto coral now for a few years in the 125, and that thing is forgiving. Like that thing's handled so many different parameter swings, so many different mistakes that I've made with my water quality and stuff, and it's doing great. Blastos, you want to keep them in low light, and they're really going to do well for you. And just keep them on the sand bed. They'll do great. And you can see based on this picture here, if you're watching the video podcast, you'll see how they kind of cluster together, kind of resembling like acan colonies, very similar to that, little tiny brain corals, something, but like a nice little puffy, flowery looking coral that's great for beginners, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with you. And I mean, I think a lot of the reason why some people say moderate is the specific ones you get out of like Indonesia and even some from Australia. Like the most common ones you're going to see in the hobby are definitely going to be like, the red and green ones from Australia or the purple and greens, just the common, Blastomusa. But you get like the bigger polyp blastos that come from Indonesia and stuff, then you're going to start dealing with a lot more bacteria issues, and I feel like that's probably the most common issue that comes in with those. So you can always use like ChemiClean, do some ChemiClean dips on those. I mean, that seems to help, especially with me at my workplace, because I was struggling with them for the longest time, and then started doing the ChemiClean dips, and the colonies are looking amazing. Everything's doing extremely well now that I've done that. So I mean, you can do that with all corals too. With the Blastos specifically, the Indo Blastos will come in with this nasty bacteria. The coral will look fine for a few days, and then it just pretty much starts eating away at the coral and stresses them out until it pretty much dies. So you definitely want to try to get that taken care of. And just as a precaution, just try to make sure that there's not going to be any bacterial, fungus, or issues with the coral.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Revive works really well.
Absolutely.
A coral dip as well. But yeah, so that is the Blasto coral. Really great coral if you're looking to get into LPS. The next one we have here is Favias.
Yeah, Favia's probably one of the multiple different styles of them. I mean, you get some with large, some with like micro polyps, like you get into like your war corals and stuff. I mean, there's this covers a wide variety, even into like maze brains and stuff. I mean, there's just a lot of cool different Favias and brain corals specifically that you can keep in your aquarium. They are definitely slower growers unless you're getting into like the smaller polyp ones, like your war corals and stuff that encrust rather quickly. Something like this is going to take a little bit to grow and turn into a nice little colony. But I always tell people like they get a frag and it takes like a year or two to like get to a decent size. I mean, you see what it looks like as a frag. Like imagine what it's going to look like when it's the size of a baseball. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
It's like a lot of people nowadays, I feel like aren't patient enough, to let stuff grow and actually look like it should. A lot of people, always like to micro frag and get frags and think things are overgrown, even though they're not.
Yeah.
I definitely am a fan of letting stuff growing out and seeing like the bigger picture as they get bigger and seeing how they do over time. But yeah, Favias are definitely one I like to, just let grow. Just see what it does.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like the patience game, right? Like in this hobby, you have to be patient and you have to be consistent. And if you're not consistent on how you're maintaining your aquarium, then things are gonna like go haywire, so to speak. Like your parameters are gonna change, you're gonna maybe overcorrect or undercorrect, and just gotta figure things out. And then it becomes complicated. But if you're consistent all the way through and you get to know your tank and your parameters, then putting a Favia coral in your tank that's going to take some time to grow, as you said, you're going to come out on the other end like this coral is amazing. Like you get to grow it out into a big colony and just check out all the unique colors, because Favias come in a variety of colors like you were talking about.
Oh yeah.
So there's a ton of colorful ones, and it's just, if you're looking for colors for your tank, definitely go or try out Favia coral and see what you think.
They're unique, they're different, and they come in many different styles and species. I mean, Favia is just a generic abbreviation for a whole family of corals that goes beyond all measures. Like I said, lots of different varieties, lots of different styles, lots of different colors. I mean, you can't go wrong with the Favia.
All right, so the next coral is probably one of my favorite corals. I mean, it's on my shirt. Oh, right here. But this is one of my favorite corals, the Duncan Coral. This is a great beginner coral. This coral is a lot of fun too if you're new to LPS, because this coral has a great feeding response. You can feed this mysis shrimp if you use Reef Nutrition, which is super easy to feed with. I'd highly recommend using Reef Nutrition food, but you can just squirt some food down and you can just watch it, grab the food and pull it in. So that's a really cool thing to see. Duncan Coral is pretty peaceful in your tank. You want to keep them probably low level is best, low to mid in your tank. I've seen them in all levels of a reef aquarium, but when you're introducing a new coral, I always start them on the sand bed and then work their way up. So yeah, Duncan corals, they're a great beginner coral as well, and they're going to grow in like a branching pattern too, as you can see this image right here. So they're really cool to have, and you can usually find these at your local fish store, like 1 to 2 heads. They're still fairly inexpensive coral to get, especially if this is a new coral for you. Definitely check out Duncan corals.
Yeah, Duncans are pretty cool. You get like pretty much a branching anemone. I mean, it's really cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So our fifth and final coral that we're going to be talking about today for LPS for beginners is going to be the scroll coral. Now, this is one of my personal favorites. A lot of people don't appreciate it like they should. This is what it looks like, under like blue or actinic lights. But if you get it under some nice bright white lights, I mean, it's literally going to be like solid yellow, like with a nice brown tint to it. It's a super gorgeous coral. It's rather easy to keep. It grows pretty rapidly. And it's something different, if you're looking for something unique and odd to add to your system that you don't really have. I mean, try a Terminaria scroll coral. I mean, they're super cool. They get a real funky growth pattern too. Once they kind of settle in, they're called a scroll coral for a reason. They will literally start to like spiral and scroll, and they're really unique and different. So if you're looking for something, you know, to get that wow factor in your tank that people are gonna be like, "What is that?" Definitely recommend the scroll coral.
Yeah, it's such a fun coral, unique growing pattern, and they can get pretty big too.
Definitely.
Like wild reefs, they are super huge. So definitely a cool coral to check out. Levi, have you heard about this unique hybrid fish that everyone is talking about?
I have.
So this is the purple tang and scopus tang hybrid from Surge Marine Life. This thing looks wild, man.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I was blessed to be able to see a few specimens at Reefapalooza Orlando. I mean, it was really cool. It's always cool to see, you know, different kinds of Tang hybrids come out because, I mean, yeah, we get a few like imported in from the wild, but I mean, most of them are already grown and they already kind of, you know, look a little different and they're super expensive. But
Oh yeah.
you get some ushered ones. I mean, yeah, they're expensive now, but down the road, you know, once they start producing more and more, I mean, they'll drop in price. But yeah, it's something unique and different that you really don't see. And like, look at the pattern on that tank. Like it's insane.
Yeah, that is wild. That looks crazy.
Like I wonder
And
what it's going to look like as an adult. Like, is it going to keep that pattern or is it going to
mhm.
turn? Like, it's going to be super interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. And like you were saying, like you saw these at Reefapalooza. That was pretty wild that they were at the show because these were, according to the article, it looks like these were captive bred hybrid tangs that were brought into the UK from the US. So they were bred here. And so it is a Scopus tang and a purple tang together, just wild patterns. And the pricing, like you said, in the comments, right before we say how much, go ahead and try to guess in the comments if you want. But the original price for one of these, $10,000.
Crazy.
$10,000. Now they're around 7,000, 7,500. But yeah, here's a little video clip of them right here. You can play this.
That is like, it's so weird and unique. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, those are very interesting to see.
Wow.
But yeah, those are the three hybrids right there. So cool.
Definitely.
And yeah, this was Surge Marine Life, Florida. But yeah, Reefapalooza, I did see something in front of like the Coral King booth. I don't know if it was the same hybrid tang, but the price tag on that was $7,000. So
Crazy.
that's pretty crazy. But yeah, a lot of interesting things happening in the hobby all the time. Reef Builders puts out great articles. If you want to check out any type of article on the hobby, there's some good ones over there at Reef Builders. But now we're going to go ahead and jump into our scientific segments.
Yes. So today we have the Prognathodes aya, which is the bank butterfly fish. It's actually local to Florida. Many people might not know this, but it's also a deep water butterfly. So that's probably why you're not going to see it in the hobby as much. It pops up every so often, but this is going to come from depths of 200 foot on down. Very rarely will you see it any shallower than that. It's going to have a hefty price tag. Normally it's like $1,200 or more dollars, but it's a super cool fish. I have a heart for the Prognathodes genus. I have a couple different specimens here in the house. I mean, it's super unique, something different you're never going to really see in the hobby much. But if you ever get the chance and you have the right tank set up and something, I mean, it's always a cool fish, to get in there and add because they are relatively hardy. They eat really well for me. They ate frozen the first day, and now I have it on Mises Feast, and they all eat like pigs. My Prognathodes aculatus anyways. But yeah, hopefully I can get my hands on a bank butterfly here soon. But definitely something super unique and different, that you don't see too often. So happy to bring that one to the table.
Awesome. Very cool. And how much did you say they go for again?
Like $1,200.
$1,200
minimum.
Yeah, that's awesome. But look at you, man, bringing the butterfly fish. This is, I think you brought one last week too. Super cool fish. Butterfly fish. I don't have anything to. Oh, I do. I don't know how I almost forgot. But Printed Reef, guys. Printed Reef. If you are not buying products from Printed Reef, then I don't know what you're doing. Go over to printedreef.com/TheCoralReefTalk. You can pick up a copper band butterfly fish feeder right here. Get all of your Printed Reef needs over there at printedreef.com/TheCoralReefTalk. And if you use the code TheCoralReefTalk at checkout, you're going to save 10% off of your entire purchase. So it's just a super cool thing that Printed Reef has got going on for you guys with that discount. And with the sand stands, the coral holders, those are awesome. Butterfly feeder, bristleworm trap. I mean, they got a lot of 3D printed stuff that's all reef safe. So go ahead and check it out.
All right. So, Joey, we have talked about my tanks. We talked about a little bit about your tanks and heard some, news from you over the past few episodes. But we're going to kind of, check out your tanks today, see what's been going on with your tanks and kind of learn a little bit about your tanks. So,
okay, yeah, I'd love to share. I try to make videos and keep you guys updated as best that I can, but we'll do a whole run through here about the 125 and that setup and everything. So right now I currently have a 125 gallon mixed reef tank. It's majority soft corals. There's some LPS corals in there, but it is an SC aquarium tank. It's Starfire glass. It was shipped all the way from California to here. It is 5 foot long, 2 foot deep, or 5 foot by 2 foot and 20 inches deep. Right. And it sits upon a 36-inch stand that I built myself. So it's a DIY stand. So if you want to check out how I built that, I documented the entire thing and I'll have the videos linked up in the description or in the show notes. You can go ahead and check that out. Maybe that'll help you build your own stand. So, but the lighting. So what lighting am I running over the tank? I have two Core XP or Core X Pros. They are from Aquatic Life USA and HM Electronics. They're both Bluetooth operated, which is really nice, really easy to control. I don't have to hook them up to the network. However, with it being Bluetooth, like if it gets out of sync or whatever, I have to like be home to turn it back on, like if there's a power outage, which is fine. I'm fine with that. But the lights have all the different programs and presets that you could ever want in it. So that's really cool. With the lights, I'm getting around 300 par at the top of the water column. So they're actually really good and I've been loving them. Filtration. So filtration on the 125, I have a trigger system sump that has the different sections in it. So the first section I have a Simplicity protein skimmer, and then the next section is the refugium. So I have Chaeto algae growing in the refugium. There's a whole bunch of amphipods, copepods, and stuff going on down there. I also have some rock down there that's from old tanks. So some rock. And Chaeto down there is doing just fine. Let's see.
like, what kind of fish you got in there right now, like livestock wise?
Okay, so as far as the livestock, I do have a pair of skunk clowns that are laying eggs like all the time.
Nice.
Pajama cardinalfish, a 6-line wrasse, a yellow tang, an ocellaris clown who kind of keeps to his side of the tank. He hangs out in the green toadstool leather coral. That's his home base. The two skunk clowns, they're hanging out in the anemones. And dude, my anemones have been taken off. I got like 7 or 8 of them in there now.
Wow.
So if you want a bubble tip anemone, dude, I got plenty of them. But yeah, so ocellaris clown, a 2-spot hawkfish. He's been with me forever. That dude's been with me going on, I don't know, 5 or 7 years, something like that. I have a Aptasia eating filefish. He's been keeping the tank clear of Aptasia, doing well. Some people say that as he gets bigger, he's going to start munching on zoanthids. I haven't really seen that to be the case with mine, at least. I try to keep them well fed. And then I kind of always see, like, if their mouth isn't as big or big enough to start munching on that, on your corals and stuff, they're probably not going to go after your coral if they have a smaller mouth. That's just my opinion. I do have a little neon goby in there.
Okay.
You rarely see this guy because he's like that big, but he's in there somewhere.
Nice.
I saw him probably a few days ago. We just got a lawnmower blenny.
Okay.
So he's hanging out. We got him from Reefapalooza, and we just added a powder blue tang.
Nice.
So this is the first I'm sharing about the powder blue tang since adding him. He's been a little shy. This is one of the shyest powder blue tangs I've ever kept in my aquarium, but it does look like he's eating now, so that's good.
Awesome.
So seems to be doing okay. We'll keep you posted on that. But yeah, so that's the fish rundown. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11 fish in the tank right now.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple setup. I do one thing that most people would kind of consider complex. I do dose kalkwasser to the system, but I dose it in a certain way. So I'm dosing it over the course of 13 hours at nighttime, and I'm using a Cynthia dosing pump. So I have that broken up. So it's 3,400 milliliters a day, and it's all based on like evaporation on the tank. So there's 13 doses of like 261 milliliters, 261 and a half milliliters that are dosed throughout the night. And then my Avast Marine Parrot, the ATO, that fills in the gaps. So if there's ever like a fluctuation with the evaporation, the ATO is going to cover that and just fill that up. So that runs constantly. I just got to make sure I keep my Kalkwasser reservoir full. And so I'm diluting, like, I think it's 6 grams per gallon of Kalkwasser is like the recommended. I don't know if I'm always hitting the 6 grams every single time, but yeah, I just mix that up, fill up my reservoir, and then that doses throughout the night. And what that's doing, it's kind of keeping my alkalinity up and stable, keeping my pH up and stable. So that with Aquachar that I'm running in the sump, I'm getting about 8.37 is my pH.
Nice.
And it's pretty constant.
Awesome. Now, we learned a little about your fish and your setup. What kind of corals, are you keeping in there currently?
Yeah, so it's pretty much soft corals, a lot of soft corals, green star polyps, a lot of Kenya tree corals, zoanthid corals. There's a bubble tip anemone back there. That's one of the 8. But yeah, I do have a few LPS corals in there. I have a bubble coral, just got an awesome maze brain coral.
Nice.
And then I have a green scully coral in there.
Nice.
Here's a video of the tank. This is probably a few months ago or so it's a little bit overgrown as far as all the zoanthids on the sand bed there. But yeah, you can kind of see, I don't remember what's in, oh yeah, in the tanklimate there is a bubble tip anemone because I'm trying to get all those out of there. You can see how many I have. This is the big group of them right here. This is where the skunk clownfish hang out. That's when I had a Midas blenny. I haven't been able to find my Midas blenny, so I think something happened to her, so I didn't mention her in my fish list. But I'm thinking, unfortunately, like an anemone covered the hole in the rock that she was staying in and just didn't move and allow her to come out and eat. But I just haven't seen her in a little while now, so a little bit unsure, which is always it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
When you lose fish. But yeah, so that's some of the corals in the tank. Tons of bubble tip anemones, but I'm slowly trying to work on, well, since Reefapalooza, man, I've been excited about adding corals to the tank.
Definitely.
So I am trying to get some more corals. Like, I'm just thinking of, like, I want some frog spawn corals, some torch corals. I was thinking maybe some acans in there. I need something to bring a little bit more color to the tank.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to be adding some more corals soon for sure.
Definitely.
But yeah, that's the 125 in a nutshell. So it's somewhat simple. The only complex part is the Kalkwasser, but that's really not too complex either because it's all set up on a dosing schedule. All I got to do is fill up the reservoir with Kalkwasser. So outside of filling that up, doing water changes, feeding the fish, it's pretty easy so far.
Nice. Yeah, the tank looks great.
Thank you.
So can't wait to see what the future holds for it.
Yeah, I'm excited about the new LPS additions with the maze brain and the scully in there. First time having a scully in the tank. But
Nice.
always wanted one, never pulled the trigger because they've always been super expensive.
Yeah.
But finally found one at Reefapalooza, and I was like, hey, let's go. Let's give it a try.
There you go.
And it looks really cool. It's awesome.
Heck yeah.
But do you have any tips on keeping LPS corals for the beginner? Someone who their very first coral might be that trumpet coral or something.
Any tips? I mean, not like, obviously make sure your tank is stable. I mean, you don't really just want to throw it in a brand new tank, you want to like kind of know your parameters, know where you're at, and maybe even throw a few cheap tester corals in there, like GSP or some Xenia or something. They're going to show you, okay, like we're doing good, or like something needs to change here. Yeah, I mean, if you have a few corals in there, like some softies and stuff that are doing great, yeah, I totally think you're going to be fine. Adding a trumpet coral, you're probably going to end up having, to keep up with your calcium a little better. But as long as you're keeping up with your water changes and you don't have a big bio load of like calcified corals, you're really not going to have to worry about that too much as long as you're doing your water changes. Once you do start to add more and more LPS or even some SPS, you're definitely going to have to, learn how to do your calcium dosing and kind of calculate all that, see how much is being absorbed and seeing how much you need to add. So that can get tricky, once you get to that road. But I mean, as long as you're keeping up with water changes for the most part and doing them weekly or so, you're really not going to have too many issues. So yeah, just kind of keep an eye on your parameters and keep an eye on your corals. I like to say that a lot. Your corals are going to tell you a lot about your tank. Like if your corals are doing great, obviously your tank's going to be fine. But you start to notice some things, starting to, recede or kind of die off a little bit, you're definitely gonna have to be like, jumping on that and trying to figure out what's going on. But yeah, I mean, my top tip for keeping LPS corals is just to know your tank, and you should be good.
Yeah, I mean, as you start adding more things to your tank, knowing your tank and knowing how your corals are doing will just help you progress as well. And also testing your tank, which is one thing that I didn't mention about my tank. But as far as testing, I am actually using a ReefBot lab for majority of my testing, which is really convenient. I know not a lot of people have one, but it's really cool because it's a device by Reef Kinetics. It comes to you pre-calibrated, so it's already good to go. Once you set it up with your app and you plug it in, all you have to do is put whatever test kit you want basically into this machine. So they have it working with a variety of different test kits. So like for me, I like Salifert test kits. I also use some API test kits as well. And then all you do is you take that reagent, put it in a vial, put that vial in your ReefBot, and then you can tell it what test it is. And then it knows what to do. It draws up the right amount of reagent, cleans the testing vials and everything, and it's all automated. So that's just been really cool for me because anytime I'm like, hey, I need to test my phosphates or I need to test my nitrates, I just hit a button and the ReefBot starts doing the testing, which is really cool. And I can test from anywhere because it's on an app. So if I'm like out and about and I'm like, oh, let me test so I know what my results are when I get back, or it actually gives you the results to your phone and in your email, which is really cool.
Okay.
But yeah, you can do that anywhere. So I'm using a ReefBot lab for majority of my testing on the 125.
Awesome.
Well, that was today's episode. Thank you so much for checking it out, listening and watching wherever you get your podcast or video podcast here on YouTube. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.
See ya.